Hey everyone, it's Elo. I hope that you're doing well. In this tier video, I first of all decided to do another soft-spoken video because I feel like it's been a decent amount of time since I did a purely soft-spoken video, and I do know that some people prefer that. So hopefully that will be a good thing. And then in terms of what we're kind of talking about today and whatnot, or tonight, I guess, I have a bunch of comic books here, and I'm just going to sort of explore them with you. They're all from the same universe, and it is I guess, Archie's universe. I think he's technically the main character, although a lot of the comics feature Betty and Veronica, who are the two major, like, ancillary characters, besides Jughead, I guess. Anyway, the story behind these is that when I was a child, I guess, growing up, I, for some reason, loved these comic books. And for those of you who don't know, these are frequently sold in the checkout line at the grocery store in America, even still today, although most of these are from the 90s. This one has an advertisement on the back for Walt Disney's Tarzan coming to video and DVD on February 1st. So it's certainly not relevant, and these larger style ones, which I think the grocery store also used to sell these, but I don't know if they still do. These ones are actually dated, and you can see the Archie Comics logo and the price, which was $1.50. And it says approved by the Comics Code Authority, which I wouldn't ordinarily know what the hell that is. But I actually, if you follow me on Instagram, you might remember a number of weeks back I found Stanley's Autobiography, and it was like $2 at Books A Million or something on sale. So obviously I had to get it, and it came with a sweet poster too. And I didn't, well, I should finish my thought first. In that Stanley memoir, I guess it was more of a memoir than an autobiography, I'm not really sure, but he talks about this, and apparently there was a point in time where people were worried about the influence of comics. Sounds familiar, right? We're always fearing the unknown and trying to put rules and restrictions on it. So with comics, they were worried about, violence, drugs, murder, a lot of the things that obviously we don't tend to look favorably upon as a society. So there was this sort of foundation, I guess, or organization, I guess would be a better word, that was formed to vet comic strips. So you weren't allowed to discuss certain topics, use certain words. I'm not sure if it extended into imagery, but I know it was big on the dialogue. So that being the case, every comic book that was published for sale was supposed to be vetted by this comic book authority. And so you can see on something like this that it is number 46748, approved by the Comics Code Authority, and they have a little like emblem of their own as well. But the little sidebar I was going to get into was the fact that when I grew up, these were really the only comics that I read and collected. A lot of people are like, oh, I was a true nerd, I read Marvel and whatever, DC a true diehard fan. I definitely was not. I was not really exposed to comic books much. I guess my parents maybe don't care, and I didn't really have anyone else. There was no place that I went to either that was really big on comics. Most of us were really addicted to Pokemon, Digimon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Naruto, Dragon Ball Z. Like, all of the anime was really kind of taking over, but I did really get hooked on these comics, and the only thing I really remember is that I felt like Betty and Veronica were kind of dumb, and I also remember feeling like if you were dark-haired, you were less attractive, because Betty's always kind of just like swooping in with her body and looks and stealing Archie, I guess, kind of. The girls are always fighting over him. It's really like a misogynistic comic, and probably not such a great influence, honestly, but I thought it was funny at the time. Like the cover of this one, it's called Laugh Digest magazine, and it's number 148. Also approved. It was $1.99 at the time, and on the front page there's some random redheaded like bimbo who is kissing Archie's neck and leaving lipstick prints on him, and she's like saying, "Give me another smooch, Archie Poo," and he's saying, "As soon as I put on this helmet." And Betty is like, I hope the ring light isn't totally killing this, but Betty is like coming over angrily with a hockey stick, like she's gonna smack him in the head or something. Which is just, this is always the kind of thing that's happening. Archie is like getting hit on and, I don't know, taken out and kissed by all these different girls, and Betty and Veronica are two of them that are just like center pieces in the story. It kind of makes me wonder if Stan Goldberg and or Henry Scarpelli, the two guys who make these comics, are redheaded males who wanted their own hero or something. And maybe some of this is like satire, like it's trying to make fun of the stereotype of the floozy woman who's constantly going after this guy who clearly doesn't like her enough to like settle down. I don't really know, because I have not read them since I was really young. It's been such a long time that I really couldn't say whether or not they were supposed to be funny. I mean, I'm sure they're supposed to be funny in some way, but I don't know. So I figured I would read some of the like covers, because there are so many and I really can't read all of the stories, obviously, but I thought maybe I'd do some of the covers, show you what they look like, and also maybe some of the advertisements, because they are old, and maybe I'm being a little self-serving, but I think it's always fun to see old advertisements from your childhood and stuff. It kind of brings up a lot of memories that you forgot about. So the back of this one is Hershey's Cookies and Cream Bar. That is the advertisement there. Kind of silly. Okay, so our next one is number 103, and this is a little thicker than the last one. It is $2.95, and it's a double digest, which is why it's thicker and more expensive. Double digest, from what I can figure out, is literally just their way of saying that it's two like episodes, two comic books stuffed into one, because like on this one it's Laugh Digest, it's just one. next one, it's Betty and Veronica Digest Magazine. I would be interested to figure out what that word means in this context, because I only know it as like eating and digestion, like taking things in. So maybe that's their point, is that it's giving you something to think about. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it has a different meaning in the comic world, or the printing world, I should say. Something to look up. But anyhow, this one, the cover has Archie and two guys. One's Reggie, I don't remember. The other one, I can't tell. That might be Jughead from the back, but I didn't remember him looking that nerdy or wearing glasses. Anyway, so the guy with the glasses says, Reggie, do you doubt that there's intelligent life in outer space? And he says, heck, I doubt that there's intelligent life sitting next to me. And he's pointing at Archie, who is clearly not enthused with the joke made at his expense. And the back of the comic is Kraft Kids and Nickelodeon Nickel Zone, which was playing Sunday through Friday, 8, 7 Central. And you could get some scoop. I don't know. Must have been like a mail-in, or like you watch certain shows and put something together. I don't know. There was a lot of that stuff when I was growing up, but I guess most of that kind of gimmicky advertising and whatnot is probably all online now. But I do wonder if they still do like mail-in stuff on cereal boxes and whatnot. I was huge into those. I don't know why. I guess partially because I got to eat a lot of food, and then there was like a reward for it. So, I mean, is there anything really better? I think not. I ate so many Cheerios to get this set that was a fork and a knife and a spoon, and they had, what is that bumblebee's name? Gosh, it'll come to me, but the little bee guy is like at the end of the utensil, and they're like a little bunch of Cheerios. Thankfully I was allowed to, like, they counted Honey Nut Cheerios and Frosted Cheerios along with plain Cheerios, so I got some variety, but not much. Okay, moving on, sorry. This next one is Betty and Veronica, and it was $2.19. It's number 119. And on the back, there's a classic, weird 90s Go-Gurt advertisement. And on the front, the comic says, it has Betty, who is the blonde, so think B, Betty Blonde. And she says, do you like my designs, Veronica? And she's holding out a shirt that she made. And then Veronica says, except the ones you have on Archie. She's like upset. It's very strange because their entire like friendship, I guess, hinges almost around the fact that they're both into the same guy. And they like, as far as my memory goes, they really fight with each other and battle for, like, Veronica continues to battle for Archie's affection, even though Archie seems more invested in Betty, like 9 times out of 10. It's very strange to me that Betty and Veronica continue to be, they're like frenemies, I guess. Like, they still hang out and everything, but I'm like, Betty, she's trying to like take your man. And I think Betty's not just like confident, she's dumb and she doesn't understand. So it's really just a lose situation for women. But this one's a Laugh Digest, number 132. It was $1.79, and they're in some sort of like a little shake place. And for some reason, Veronica has on a full workout outfit, and she's holding dumbbells as she bends down at the waist very provocatively to drink a milkshake off of the floor. And Betty's kind of watching her like, and Archie is about to be served his own milkshake sitting at the bar. And so Veronica says, I tried to take calories off as fast as I put them on. So she's exercising while she eats. And the back of the comic is a Kit Kat advertisement with a bunch of kind of, how many things can you spot in this picture that can be spelled using only the letters B-R-E-A-K? So, random little fun games like that. Okay, this next one is number 104. It was $2.95 to double digest. And this one has Archie in the gym getting sidetracked by a foxy lady. And he's got stars around his head because he's fallen off of the actual saddle, which is what it's like called in gymnastics. Because he's staring at this girl, and his instructor is like, you were doing so well, what happened? And on the back there is an advertisement for Fox Family Channel for the 13 Days of Halloween, and it has a lineup with the Addams Family, Casper, and other spooky treats, they say. So this is shaping up exactly the way I kind of remember it, where like Betty is kind of Archie's girlfriend, Veronica is constantly trying to get with Archie, and I think she does a few times, and Archie's just constantly looking at everyone else. What? Okay, so this one is what? Okay, so this one is Jughead with Archie, Digest magazine. And there's no words on the comic, it's just Jughead, who stereotypically wears a crown on his head all the time. He's getting out of a pond where he was swimming with his best friend Archie, and he's wearing a rubber duck pool float. And the native ducks to the pond, the little ducklings, are following him out, and their mom is getting really mad at Jughead. And on the back there is an advertisement for one of my favorite foods of all time, and I don't care what this makes me. Kraft macaroni and cheese. I could eat this stuff for so long. I honestly think that it would be part of like my death row meal if I had a last meal. Kraft macaroni and cheese would probably be on that plate. And I'm not saying it's the best macaroni and cheese in the world. In terms of real macaroni and cheese, it's actually kind of garbage. But in terms of just like a disgusting processed orange powdered cheese food that screams America and tastes just so gushy and amazing, it's the business. And when I was growing up, we weren't allowed to have it because it has food coloring in it, but eventually they made a white cheddar version, which is also really good. And I also just started eating food coloring once I was old enough to make my own decisions, and it's delicious. But I used to always love having it like over a friend's house. I can distinctly remember multiple of my friends' parents getting mad at me for like eating too much mac and cheese. Step up your game. It's not my fault you only cook one box. You underestimated this. Okay, so this next one is a Betty and Veronica double digest, and this is just ridiculous. Veronica is in a hot air balloon made out of Veronica's own head, and she is floating up to the area where Betty and Archie are having a little romantic picnic moment. So she's just like literally tiny, hovering with her ginormous ass head, just leering over, and Archie's like looking back at her. This is the original of that meme, I guess. Archie is looking back like, hey, and Betty has her eyes closed, so seemingly she doesn't even know that this is happening. And meanwhile, Archie's kind of like enjoying the fact that he's being held by one woman and admired by another. And the back is for Hershey syrup and has a little strange cartoon child doing unspeakable things to cows and chocolate syrup and cups and all kinds of things. So that's interesting. Okay, we can do some of the thin ones too. I still have this many in this stack, and then 2 more stacks that are about this size when it comes to these smaller ones. So we'll do some of the bigger ones for just to see the difference. This one is a Betty and Veronica. Notably, none of the larger ones say digest. So again, I feel like that has to have something to do with the format, but I don't know. And actually, I see here on the bottom of this one, it says the saga continues, House of Riverdale Part 2, and that reminds me about the, I guess, elephant in the room that I can't not speak about. Apparently, on Netflix, I believe, there's a show that is called Riverdale, which is based off of this comic book series, and I think that that's absolutely ridiculous. I think that they should have used original characters from what I can see. I'm talking out of my tuchus here, and I know that, so I'm gonna be open about that. But from the 1 or 2 or 3 trailers that I've seen of that show, it looks absolutely nothing like the comics. The premise doesn't look the same. The characters don't look the same. They don't have their key features, some of them. I don't even know if Archie's a redhead in Riverdale, which is like his defining feature. Hair color is really important, like Jughead's crown is really important, and everything's always just kind of a joke. It's not that serious, and it seems like in the TV show that everything's really serious. So I don't really know what the deal is with that, and I don't think I'll ever give the show. I might give it a chance if I just tell myself that like it's not Archie, that it's something completely different. I apologize that I keep adjusting this. It's really uncomfortable to try to keep these in and like move, and my shirt's changing the positioning. It's just a lot. Like, this is a lot. But it's super helpful to be able to hear excess noise, because sometimes when I get in the zone, I stop paying attention to what's going on around me, and I'm focused on what I'm talking about and talking to you. So it can get very distracting. I get caught in my own thoughts, and I don't notice when a plane goes by or a whistle blows or whatever the case may be. So I'm trying to kind of work around this for right now until I come up with a better solution. Like when I have my soundproofing up, I think that I won't need to do this anymore, hopefully at all, so that I can go back to the natural kind of look without headphones, but especially when I'm doing a video like this that's not a role play, I want to make sure that the audio quality is at least as good as I can make it with as few interruptions or background sounds as possible. So that's the reasoning for that, and please just ignore me if I'm touching my ears. It's just to get them to stay in place. My ears are like, am I just the only person on the planet that these iPod headphones are just not made for? I don't know, maybe. Okay, so anyway, the back of this one is Twizzlers Pull and Peel, which I hate licorice. I understand that some people like it and that's fine, but it is not for me. It makes me very, very ill very, very quickly. It's too strong, too harsh. But the pull and peel Twizzlers that they used to have, at least, I tried them one time and they were not really licorice. They were like just like a gummy, and so I thought that they were really good. But I ate too many of them and got sick, so I've never had them again. Story of my life. I feel like most people, when they tell that kind of story, they're always talking about drinking. I know so many people that have told me, like, oh, I can never smell such and such drink because it makes me, like, immediately sick. And every time I have a story like that, for myself, it's always with food. Never alcohol. Okay. So here's another one. This is an Archie one, and on this one, Archie is giving Veronica a gift for Christmas, and she is, for some reason, imagining that he just went out and got this gift last minute at the dollar store. So she's like angry before she even sees what it is, but I guess she's expecting to be disappointed, or expecting that he didn't really care enough about her to get her something better. In the back is a Kit Kat advertisement. Hammer Karate Steamroller U. Oh, different ways to break a Kit Kat. Okay. A couple of these, unfortunately, the binding has torn away, so I'm going to consolidate some of these and cut down into the pile to avoid. Oops, this one's missing a cover too. To avoid damaging them any further. They are, on the older side. And I have no idea if these comics would be like worth anything, but I don't really care. These are like pretty important to me. They were one of the first different reading materials that I had, and I've always been an incredibly avid reader. I know sometimes people kind of joke about that stereotype, or talk about the stereotype of the bookworm who's just escapes reality by reading, and that was definitely me. And I also just really enjoyed the stories of it. I didn't see why anyone wouldn't want to read. And still, though, most of what I read was not at all like this. I had, golly, it's hard to really remember. I had a lot of typical children's books, like If You Give a Mouse a Cookie, and The Mitten, and Rainbow Fish, and Brown Bear, I think it was called. Shel Silverstein, all of like the kind of typical things that were popular. I also was a huge Berenstain Bears fan, and Franklin the Turtle. And then I had some older books that I inherited that were like Nancy Drew and Little House on the Prairie, that kind of stuff. There was a really riveting, for me, I guess, book that I read at one point called Black Beauty that was about a horse. And I've never really been like a huge horse person or animal person, as I've kind of mentioned. But for some reason that book just completely enchanted me, and I had this recurring dream about having my own horse named Black Beauty who would shepherd me around, or taxi me, I guess, around the neighborhood. But like we were friends. Like the horse wanted me to ride it around and go on adventures and stuff. That was a good, I don't know, I just think when you can read something and it can do that to you, have such a big impact on you, it's just a really cool thing. So on the cover of this next one here, it's a Jughead edition, so it's Archie's pal Jughead comics. He kind of, I guess, they all kind of had spin-offs, the 4 of them anyway, and Betty is cooking on the grill or the barbecue, whatever you call it, and she's asking Jughead, do you want it rare, well done? And he says big. He is a huge foodie like me, so I think I always related most to Jughead just because he was more into food than anything else, but he's a moron. They're kind of all morons. And again, we have Kraft macaroni and cheese on the back. I'm getting so hungry. It makes me think I foresee in my near future buying mac and cheese. Okay, this next one is The World of Archie, and it's the X folders. It was in March. It's number 18. It was $1.50, and Archie is standing in front of a UFO saying he doesn't believe in UFOs. Do you guys? And Jughead and Veronica are frantically running away. And the back is the same Kit Kat advertisement as the last one. Let's see. Oh. Okay, so you might remember from one of my other videos I talked about Lisa Frank stuff, and I think it was in my 90s video that I talked about this, but it's a Lisa Frank advertisement for all the incredibly girly stationery and stamps and crap. Their slogan was literally, "You gotta have it." And this one is a Betty and Veronica double digest, and Betty is doing hula and says, Archie, the hula dance tells a story. And Veronica is covering his eyes and says, and I'm giving it a surprise ending. So she's obviously not wanting Archie to look at Betty as Betty is dancing in a little outfit. This is just ridiculous. Okay, so in some of these next ones, Betty is actually like going out on a date with Archie, kissing on Archie. But then she goes over to his house, his bedroom, and sees that his Sports Stars collection is a bunch of female athletes, and she's pissed. It just all seems to be like really perpetuating a lot of like bad and outdated ideas about how boys and girls should interact, how people should treat each other. Really, it's not even about gender, just there's a lot of like jealousy and over the top anger, and extreme, like, pranking and making fun of people. There's bullying, like, just a lot of stuff that I think if the wrong kid were to read these, they would probably not be such a good influence. However, I think for other kids, like me reading these, even though I clearly had an interest in them for some reason, I was invested in the characters, it still always sat with me, and like obviously to this day, I have these memories of feeling like this isn't right, that this doesn't sit well with me. So I don't know. I feel almost a little nervous saying that, just because, as I mentioned a couple times now, I literally have not even touched these in so long. As I was undoing this room and starting to put everything up, I kind of refound these and just thought it was a nice little kind of trip down memory lane. And it's also nice because since I'm estranged from my family, I don't have a whole lot of things that used to belong to me when I was growing up. But this is something that, like, dates back to the time I was like 4 or 5 years old, that I was reading these, or at least reading them in my own way and looking at the pictures. And I'm sure I didn't understand all of the jokes, which is why I'm hesitant and trying to cover myself by saying that this might be a completely unfair interpretation of these. But I'm just saying, in my situation, for someone who was as young as I was, who doesn't have much capacity for sarcasm even today, these could have gone really poorly for me. But I think seeing the way that these people were treating other people only made me more empathetic and more sad. I can definitely remember being really, really little the first time that I cried for someone else. Just like watching someone else be in pain. And that is something that is still very, very strong in me for whatever reason, and always has been. I have a very hard time watching even like movies and fake things when I have to watch someone suffer. I feel like I feel what they feel, and it's very, very easy for me to put myself into that space, and imagine what someone's feeling emotionally in a difficult situation. So I can be very weepy when I'm like, especially if I'm watching something sad, and like forget it with those like animated shorts that happen at the beginning of movies. Those are like the modern day toned down version of like hell for that kind of, for like a huge empath like me. I just said like a lot of times, sorry about that. My point being, I'm glad that these didn't shape me differently, and that I kind of saw them as bad and not good. But I might go back and reread some of them just to see if that opinion would change, and if it does, I will update and inform you. And I'd be interested to know if any of you have ever read these, or if you watch Riverdale, or both, or if you're into any comics. My favorite superhero by far is The Flash, but I have not been able to read that many comic books of The Flash just because I don't even know where to start. I've gone into a lot of comic book stores now that I've been older, and I always look, and I usually read stuff while I'm in there a lot, but I never really know where to start, because the earliest comics are typically like harder to come by in a comic bookstore. So this is really the only series that I've ever read that I can think of, other than like comic strips. I used to read a lot of Dilbert, Dilbert, but Dilbert. And there was a woman too, like an old, haggardly woman with drooping bosom, but I don't remember what her name was. She was funny though. So I just wanted to also crinkle these a little bit because I think also they have a nice gentle tapping sound. That's really kind of soothing and reminds me a little bit of like the pitter-patter of rain. And I think it has a lot to do with not only the coating of these comics, the kind of shiny, a little bit thicker paper that they use for the covers, but also the thickness and the density of the paper that's used for the actual book gives this more dampened quality when you're tapping. And that actually reminds me a lot of Raffy Taffy, I think. I hope I'm saying that right. Is an ASMR artist who is pretty well known for his tapping videos. And he tends to, in my viewings of him, he does very forceful, kind of like meaty, full-fingered tapping on thicker objects that make more of that kind of deep sound. And I think that sounds really good too. These are also super good for sticky fingers. Which, as some of you know, is one of my favorite triggers. But the crinkling. That's translating well. If not, I'll have to cut it, and I apologize for that. But there we have it. I think maybe what I'm going to do is end by counting, just to kind of help us drift off maybe a little bit more. So we're going to do the thicker ones, since the thinner ones, as I said, have some binding issues, and these ones are all pretty well together. So we'll just count all of the different little comic books here, and then we will drift off into sleep. Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, and 40. Wow. I'm glad I had an even number. That makes me feel very contented. I did see one other issue that I wanted to talk about while we're here, because this is a special one that I actually remember pretty darn well. It was the 100th, not episode, but comic, I guess, of the overall Archie digest, and it was a Christmas one, and on the cover it boasts that there are 128 pages and that this is the special 100th collector's edition. It was $1.50, approved by the Comics Code Authority, of course. And in the little party here, Santa Claus, whom I believe is their teacher dressed up, has a broken foot and arm and is saying, "Why do these things always happen to me?" And the other teacher, who's a woman, says, "Because it's an Archie digest." And then Archie says, "This 100th issue is our gift to you. Read Santa mental over you in this issue." So there is the 100th edition. I remember being very, very excited about getting this one, and the pages are quite yellowed and showing their age, which actually surprises me because a lot of the other ones are not, but who knows. Okay, so I hope that this was kind of interesting, fun, just something I felt I would like to share, another little collection, get to chat with you guys a little bit more, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in my next video, whatever that may be, and I hope that you all are having a great end of your November and remembering to just breathe. Try not to let the stress of the end of the year weigh you down. I'd like to probably make another video in December that will kind of touch on the typical end of the year blues. I can remember talking a little bit about that sensation at the end of last year as well, but I do think that it's something that's really important. So maybe I can come up with a new way to help discuss that. Maybe a video to comfort in the time of a panic attack or other issue brought on by socializing, being at a party, or being stuck around family and in-laws and whoever else might be dampening your holiday spirit. So I also know that this is a hard time for people with school exams, so maybe I'll try to dip into that as well and provide some relief for college and other students who are working hard and trying to make the most of the end of their semester. So those are kind of the things on the horizon, I suppose, but most of all I just want you to worry about kind of keeping your own flat line and enjoying every day instead of dreading it. I know that's easier said than done, but sometimes the more that we consider how much we take from ourselves, it can almost become easier to not want to give in to some of our typical mental tendencies and things that maybe don't help us as much as we could be helping ourselves, which is no one's fault. We're all human and just kind of doing the best we can. So I just hope that I can assist in that process. So I wish you all a very, very good night and sweet sleep if you're heading to bed, and if you're just kind of making it through your day. I hope that the rest of it is wonderful and you feel happy and calm and good, and just know that someone out there, me, is thinking of you and hoping that you're doing well and feeling well. So I'll see you guys in my next video, and have a good night.